Now, before we get into it, I'm going to give you 10 good reasons why I think you should buy one of these bikes, and more importantly, what steered me back from around about 2018 onwards to think about I need a different sort of a ride. So if you keep that in mind, stay tuned, and we'll go from there. Now, also in this clip, there's going to be 2 really good tips on this bike where if you don't want to get out and spend a lot of money, under $50 will give you a good performance mod. So stay tuned, watch through, and when we get to that one there, I'll just tell you what it is. And if you want to save yourself a few bucks, we can go for that one. Back in 2018, I walked into a Kawasaki dealer, and I was interested in buying a KLX 150. So I actually bought that bike off him. They were pretty good value then. I think it was about $5,250 right away. I needed a little bit different ride where I could get out and do a little bit of dirt road work, and bought the bike off him. So while I was there, I was looking around on the floor, and there was a Kawasaki W800. Now, I asked him about that, and he said on special. So I think the story was a girl had ordered it in stock, and it was around $16,000. Something went wrong, and I think it was too big for her. And I think the Rotowaite's price was about $14,500, which was pretty good, $1,500 under new price. So I was thinking to myself, well, I wouldn't mind buying that because it was a nice looking colour. I think it was a sort of a dark olive green, or sort of a green of some sort, but it was a green one, and it looked really nice. So more importantly, I said to him, yeah, I may be interested in buying that if we can do a cash deal. So he said, yeah. He'd already relieved me of $52.50, so there was no big drama there. And I said, I've got a trade in. And he said to me, what do you got? Yeah, so I said to him, I've got a classic 500, gunmetal grey, nice looking bike. It's only done 2,000 kilometres, mint condition. And he just looked at me and said, and shook his head, mate, sorry, but I can't trade that. And I said, and why would that be? He said, I had one here about 18 months ago. And he said it was sat in the shop for about 12 months before I could get a buyer for it. And when I did get the buyer, I was plagued by problems with the bike and things going wrong with it all the time. It was more trouble than what it's worth. So sorry, if you can sell your bike elsewhere, and because he said I'd just give you a lowball price. So I thought, oh well, I was there. How much is a lowball price? And I was thinking, you know, if the lowball price is still reasonable, I might cash it and go for that Kawasaki. Well, he said, sight unseen, I'd give you $4,000. And I was thinking to myself, freaking $4,000. The bike cost me $9,000. It's only roughly 7 months old and done 2,000 kilometres. So that was all right. I said, oh look, if I can get a sale for the bike or somebody to buy it, I'll come back and I may be interested in that Kawasaki, because that Kawasaki was really a nice looking bike. What I didn't know at the time when I was doing it there, you know, the classic 500 is loaded with vibration for a start, but also the W800 Kawasaki, it's known to have a bit of vibe in it too. Now, where I was interested in doing it on the spot, on today's market you couldn't sell me one because I'm not interested in any bad vibrating bikes. So that was alright. I ended up going to another Kawasaki dealer not that far away, and once again flatly refused, once I was told I had an Enfield, that I wanted to trade in. So in the trade-in price, they either don't want to give you anything for a classic 500, and that's why they got such a bad name, because they're unreliable. And you might say to yourself, if you're here looking at this for the first time, come on mate, they couldn't be unreliable. Now what would you know? Okay, I know enough. Over that period of time I bought 15 of them brand new, so that should clear up that side of it, what I know and what I don't. So I know really everything can go wrong with them within reason, and that compares me to, I don't know, I don't think there'd be many people around who would have bought 15 classic 500s, but I was one of them, and I went right through them, and I really enjoyed the experience. And you say, well, why'd you buy so more if you had trouble? I always thought year after year they'd get better. So back in 22, we'll swing to this classic 350 reborn. There was good talk, and the dealer actually, what I'd bought a couple of these 500s of, he said, you know, the classic 350 reborn's coming out in a year or so. He said, I'd get rid of your 500 now while you got the chance, or you mightn't be able to get rid of it later on. And I said, oh yeah? He said, and I've been told it's really low on vibration too. I said, is that a fact? And he said, yes. And he was laughing at me. And I said to him, I could be interested in one of those. And since 22, I think I've had 3 of those in the Hunter. But overall, that gives you an idea how bad it was to get rid of a classic 500. So what's a classic 500 got over a 350? Well, In theory, it's got 7 horsepower and a lot more vibration. So they're the only two things. Both bikes weigh in at around about 195 kilos. Both bikes feel the same when you're riding them. And it's just a matter if you have got it in your skull that you want to be the person that rides a 500 compared to more refined 350. So if you look at this bike here now for 2023 model and put it up against to a 20 or 20, maybe you might get a late 21 model, new old stock in the 500s, it'd be just a matter of what you want to go for. So anyway, that's the story of what I had problems with those, and now we'll swing into 10 reasons why I think you should buy one of these bikes. Yeah, so meanwhile I've had to set my crash helmet there on the fence and the bag and that, because only a couple of days ago in the Hunter Valley, a 7-year-old schoolgirl opened up a lunchbox and then had it on the ground there in the playground for a short period of time. Then she went to open the box to grab a sandwich out of it and found a small red-bellied black snake curled up inside a lunchbox. Hard to believe that one, but that's what happened. And I just had my crash helmet and that sitting on the ground here, and that's a stupid place here because I'm in really bad viper territory and the sticks around here move pretty quick. So anyway, we'll get on to 10 reasons why I think you should buy a Classic 350, plus I'll give you the 2 tips what you can do to improve one of these bikes for under 50 bucks. The price is really good on these bikes, and they come in at 8,000 for the basic and go up to 8,800 for the chrome. Now, I really think if you're out there buying, like the chromes do look alright, but I really think Enfield are ripping people off, charging an extra $800 for a little bit of chrome on the front mudguards, a little bit on the rear, and also on the petrol tank. Now, I think you'd have to agree, it's not worth $800 for just that bit of chrome, considering that all those parts are on the bike in the first place, and all they do is just throw a bit of chrome on it, and then slap it $800. It's really a fun bike to own and ride. I reckon it's got great eye appeal. It's really lives up to its name. It's like a classic bike, it's a classic ride, it's got the classic look. I've had a few bikes, and the best thing about this one here, I think it rides really with that old school feel, and you know, it's got the benefits of ABS and fuel injection, so that's a plus too. It is really a nice solid bike, and it's virtually 99% all steel. So the only thing you got worried about, or if you're concerned about anything, and I'll zoom in on it, would be this area here, plastic over the covers, there's plastic here, and the only other thing on the other chain would be your chain guard. Now, I don't know why Enfield, you know, didn't throw an option so you could have steel side covers, complete cases like on the Classic 500 in the old days, and they also did swaps in different models. One year they had plastic chain guard, next time it's steel. So, you know, it would have been really good if the whole bike was 100% steel. So if you would have got everything in the metal, you would have been a lot more happier camper than just skimping and coming to this part here and for some reason decide to do that in plastic, which I think was a fairly shitty move by Enfield, but then again, that's Enfield. Ease of service. These are really easy bikes to service. So as far as things go, at 500 kilometres, it might have gone up a little bit on it now, but when I bought this one 500 k's and the other couple of ones, and there's a tappet adjustment and you do your first oil and filter change. Oil and filter change is fairly easy unless you put a sump guard on it. This one's got a sump guard on it, then you've got to remove a little bit to get into it. But as far as things go, the oil and filter change is fairly well straightforward. And if you do all this stuff yourself, you can save yourself quite a few bucks compared to going to the dealer. Now, if for example you want to do the tappet adjustment at 500 and have a crack yourself, I've got heaps of videos on this bike, something like 100, and I'll put it at the end as a playlist. And you can go in there and just go ahead and do it. And I think I was one of the first people to put up tappet adjustment on one of these. You know, there might have been a couple before me, but it would have been in the early stages anyway. So keep that in mind, you know, if you want to do anything like that. These are really easy bikes to work on, and, you know, more importantly, trouble-free too. Okay, I said I'd give you a top tip for under 50 bucks, and here it is. So if you want to get into this bike and you say you want to do a little bit of work on it and you want to up the performance of it and let it run a little bit more smoother, well, you could say you could either go for a sports exhaust, you can go for the cam change, and you know, sort of things like that, general run thing, air filter and all that. But here's the best idea if you're on a budget. Don't worry about all that crap, because I've tried them anyway, and I did have the cam in this and pulled it out, but I haven't gone into the exhaust, but I know all those from the 500 days. So if you come around here to my airbox side, we'll get her out now, and we check the cover. See what I'm running there? That is the Hitchcock's cover, but I'm still running the paper element in there. Now, believe it or not, that is the way to go on the cheap. For about $40, I think it charged you to buy that one. That will be a really good tip for you. And don't worry about buying the crappy DNA filter or something. Just buy one of these covers, put on it, and you say, oh, come on, Warren, how would you know that made any difference? The placebo effect. Okay, here's the thing. Every bike I get will zoom in. Okay, every bike I get, see here, and over there. I'll go around the other side and we'll have a look at that. Bit better look. So we'll have a look, a bit better look. See those markers? When I buy a bike and I'm running it in, you see those markers there? When I buy a bike and mark it in, this is the back off there. Around here, full throttle. I know without that cover on it now on this run today, and I've just travelled about 50 kilometres, I would be running about there, say about on that, at 100 kilometres an hour on the flat. I found coming out today, I was about there. Not much more on that one, and that's proof enough that that it works. And you could tell the bike was running a lot better too. So once again, I would say about there it would have been on 100, about that would be it, and today back like that. It surprised me how well the bike was going. So there's your double tip. One, the airbox mod, you don't worry about touching the filter, you just go ahead and buy the cover, put that over it. And number two, mark the accelerator and see for yourself, and then you come back and tell me, you know, you don't have to say anything, just say you're. Yeah, so my thoughts on the Classic 350 Reborn. It's a really highly reliable motorbike. Now these weigh in at 195 kilos, exactly the same as the Classic 500. So when you ride it, no really difference. Weight-wise it's the same, well balanced. But the main thing is, in this particular bike, where on the other one you get a bit of vibe in it, this one is really low vibe in the handlebars and also in the foot pegs, where if you're out there, Classic 500s vary, so some of them are really bad vibrators, some of them just got a bit of mild vibration, but neither Classic 500, if you go down one and get onto another, in most cases none of the Classic 500s ride the same. So, but where you get onto one of these Classic 350 Reborn, they all feel the same. There's no difference between them. So they're really well refined bikes, and in that line, a treat. These Classic 350s are as good as handler as the 500, even though they might be down 7 horsepower. Now this one of mine, you know, you might think to yourself, check these off-road tyres. So naturally that's the front. We'll swing over to the back. Now you'd probably think with those off-road tyres this would be a real terror to ride around on, but not the case. Yeah, so the tyres I've got on this are Moto's Tractionator Adventure, and they really handle these sort of dirt roads really well. Only problem with them, they got a slight bit of hum in them, and once you get over the 100 kilometre an hour mark, it's slight wobble, you know, coming up from naturally all this rubber blocks moving around. But you know, it would surprise you how well. If it was a really crappy bike to ride, I would just say, oh, stuff these tyres, I'll piss them off and put a new set on it. But not the case. I've got no complaints with it, and if I can ride the bike without complaint, well, that's the main thing, because at times I'm fairly hard to please in that line. And as far as things getting out and riding around, if you've got the urge, you want to buy one of these and you want to ride corners, runs around the corners really well, tracks well, runs over the ripples, everything like that, with no trouble whatsoever with these tyres on it. And overall, this bike is a really good bike to ride. Now this little Classic 350 Reborn is a nice torquey little motor. So you can go along and it'll pull the hills in 5th gear, and it'll sort of pull along in 5th gear down low. So if you compared this, say for example, to my Honda GB350, totally two different bikes, put out the same horsepower, 20, both 350 cc's. The Honda, you've got to rev it to wring its neck out to keep things going. Well, this one's a real lugger. So if you like to go along and sort of coast along and, you know, do a lot of fourth gear running and then occasionally into fifth and that, this is the bike. If you want to hurry it along, it'll still pull along reasonably well down low in those top gears, and with no trouble there whatsoever. Where, like I said, if you're on the GB350, if you're in fifth, you'd have to definitely drop the third to wake the bike up to get it on the get up and go feeling. So that bit aside, if you're like a little bit of torquey motor, you won't be disappointed in this, and it's sort of in a way like riding a classic 500, like, except the torque on those 500s would be a bit better than this, but for what it is, you know, it's a really good little bike in that line to go for. Would be the rider's triangle. So when you sit on this bike here, riding triangle sort of nice and upright for the rider himself, with the foot pegs here, you know, like almost down level. So you are sitting there like a more sit up and beg position. Now I find that, you know, like if you go out and do a 200 or 300 kilometre run, you can do it whatsoever. Now, to make it more comfortable for me, there's no doubt that touring seat's a plus. You know, you can pick those up on eBay and, you know, get one brought in from India a lot cheaper than you can buy it at the dealer. And the strange thing about it, you probably wouldn't expect these off-road tyres I've got to soften the ride quality on this bike at all, but it actually does. So the bike is a lot better to ride with those off-road tyres. The only drawback would be the off-road tyres put the seat height up probably about maybe 1 inch. So if that's a bit of a problem, you know, that could be a drawback for you. But as far as I'm concerned, with that touring seat and this these off-road tyres, you know, I'm 100% satisfied how the bike runs and travels along like that, and I think overall very happy with the bike as a package. The range of accessories you can get on this bike on the cheap. So for example, on this one I put the heel and toe shifter, which I'll zoom in on. There's a heel and toe shifter. I think I picked it up around about $70. Once again, I buy all the stuff for the accessories from eBay. So $70 for that. See this rack here? This is what you call a touring rack for a 883 Harley Davidson. This is a 14-inch one, and what I mean by 14 inch, it's 14 inch from here out to here. So one side to the other, 14 inch. They make them in about 3 different sizes, so if you buy the wrong one, it doesn't look as good on the bike, and you have to go for the one that says total length 14 inches. Pick up one of those for around about $60 or $70. So that's 2 things there. Yes, I haven't got it on the moment, but I also bought the saddle stays and bags from India via eBay, once again about $200 odd, and you know, sometimes I run them with them, sometimes I don't. So that's a cheap outlay there. Another thing here is a sump guard. Once again, $100 pulls that one up. And the dearest thing, believe it or not, were these touring mirrors from, naturally, Royal Enfield. They were a little bit higher up on the market. I think they were a couple of $100. And you're already aware when I told you earlier about the airbox mod. So that's about all the accessories on this, and you say to yourself, overall that never cost you that much when you look at it. Well, it didn't, because when you do another comparison, like if you look at, say for example, a few months back I had a 2023 model Vespa GTS scooter in the 300cc series. Now, I'd contacted the dealer about that one, and I just wanted to buy the rear support rack where the top box fits on. Now, just to buy that bit of crap, 2 items, not counting anything else, I was quoted $1,250 just to buy the top box and the rack to support it. So if you look at what you could put on an Enfield, and remember they're fairly expensive scooters, $13,500 right away. You know, if you look at it on these Enfields, you could get a whole host of accessories for not much money. So keep that in mind. If you like to accessorise your bike and you don't want to spend a heap of money, these are the bikes to go for, because you can load it up for not much money. I think it's a really great all-round bike for the money. It presents itself well. You know, it's got a great handle. It's very reliable, and I'll repeat that again, very reliable. And you can ride it near anywhere. Like, I've had this particular bike with the off-road tyres and normal tyres on some really rough four-wheel drive tracks, and this bike has never let me down, never failed to start, and there's no reason why I wouldn't class this bike as 100% reliable. The clutch itself is a little bit heavy to engage, and it engages right on and near the end throw. Now the gearbox itself, nice and solid, and really positive changes, and I've never had a trouble with false neutrals or anything like that with it. So it really goes into it compared to the Classic 500 days when I had those, and in most cases a lot of them had just box full of neutrals in all areas, especially 4th, 5th, anywhere they could find a neutral. A real pain in the arse, there's no risk. So fuel economy, I haven't really gone into anything like that because it doesn't really interest me. I just put the petrol in, ride them. When they get low on petrol, put more petrol in. You've probably heard me say this, anything from previous runs. If you're liable to have a problem with these Classic 350s, and depend on what year you got, would be a sticky speedo, and usually a dealer will replace that with no charge. So that will get you out of the trouble there. You know, it's a bit of an inconvenience, but considering all the other part of the bike is nice and solid, I wouldn't be really concerned too much about that. Beauty's in the higher beholder, and I think in this case this is not a bad looking bike for the money. And if you're in the market and you're really chasing something like this, I don't really see how you could go wrong and get yourself onto one of these. And I think, you know, there's a bit of stigma at times about 350ccs compared to the old 500, but from my point of view, the 350cc bike totally outweighs the 500, because, you know, I had some horror stories with the 500s, and, you know, I'm not just targeting one model. You know, like I said earlier, I had 15 of them, so I got a rough idea. In fact, I got a very good idea what they were really like. And what I can say about this one, like another thing people might not be aware of, when these first come out in 2022, I bought two of them. I bought a Halcyon Grey, and I also bought the Marsh Grey. Now you might say, why would you want two? Well, that would be a good question if you're here to hit me with it, and here was the reason. I'd come from the 500s and found them that unreliable and that much trouble and money I had to spend on them and fix them and breaking down on me all the time. When these Classic 350 Reborns come out, I really did not have that much faith in them. So I thought to myself, I'll buy two of them, and if one breaks down, I can still ride the other one while they're fixing it. So that was my plan. But, you know, you could say I was disappointed when I got the bike. The bloody thing never broke down. It was just going all the time, and I think I ran 11,000 kilometres on it, and I thought, well, I really don't need to. These bikes have improved that much. The new generation, yeah, so things have improved that much from the Interceptor days, and I think the Himalayan was the first one to sort of show a little bit of promise that Enfield had upped their game, followed on by the Interceptor, and then a couple of the other bikes, the Media, and then finally these Classic 350 Reborn. And it just come to the stage where Enfield had upped their game that much. They'd started to build really, really good bikes, instead of compared to some of them really, really shitty bikes. Simple as that. And the only reason I stuck with them, like I mentioned earlier, was the fact is I really like and enjoyed the look of these bikes, and they had everything I had going for them. I mean, where could you get a 2023, 2024 model looks like this, and it's just old school from the 60s, and the best thing about it's got dual channel ABS and fuel injection, and that means you can go out and ride it. It's not going to break down. You don't have to prig around with the carbies or anything like that, and you can just go out and enjoy the run, and more importantly, you can go out there and come back. So that's the main thing. I had a couple of breakdowns on the 500s, and it was no picnic out there ringing the wife, come out and get me, and bring the high ace out and trolley it back up or ramp it back up onto that and bring the bloody thing home. So, you know, you might think I'm a 500 knocker. Well, I probably am. If they were that good, honestly, if the 500 was a better bike than this, I would say to you now, I'm going to get rid of this one and go back to a 500. But, you know, there'll be a few people have the shits what I say about the 500, but those people have probably only had one, and they might have had one really good one. But, and believe it or not, I had a couple of good ones too, but shit, I had some bad ones. And, you know, the difference that splits me and those people would be they went out and bought one bike $8,000 or $9,000. I bought 15, probably spent $130,000. That is the difference. And that's why I take more notice of what I say, if you were sort of interested in buying a bike compared to somebody that's got one and say what a good bike it is, because those people are the ones that will probably get back to me later on when something goes wrong and say, how do you fix this? Now, I actually put clips up on how to fix a lot of these 500 problems, and you know, the view content was very poor, so in the end I just pulled them down, because there's always some on the channels on YouTube who think they're the gurus, but they might be the gurus because they got one bike, but they don't know the answers. So you'll know when they don't answer the answers, they don't answer the question when it comes on. So as far as things go now, I think we'll end this one, and hopefully you got something out of this. And you know, like another thing too, if you've got a 500 and it's been reliable and running well and that, all that, they are really good bikes as far as, I mean, I don't hate or dislike them. I'd like to get out and hammer their tank with a claw hammer or anything like that. But the fact is, if you've got a good 500, look after it, because not all 500s are made equal. Where on the classic 350, they're all the same. Like I've had the, like I said, 3 classic 350 Reborns now on the Hunter. They all ride, except the Hunter. All 3 classic 350s rode the same. So you can't get on one and say this one's better than the other, because they're all the same. But you can get onto a 500 and say this one's a really good one, this one's a heap of crap, and this one I'm going to try to sell back to the dealer. And in some cases that's exactly what I've done. So that bit aside, I hope you found this interesting, and you know, pity about the W800 days, but it went very close in those, and I would have been keen to try one because they're a really good looking Jap bike. But once I read that, or watched a couple of reviews, and they said that vibes come in at around that 100, I thought, oh, I can't live with that idea. So thanks for tuning in, taking a look, and we'll catch you on the next clip. And if you want to subscribe after this, you're quite welcome to subscribe, and you may even consider giving it a thumbs up. So cheers for now.